The first time I knew something was wrong was when the dog barked at her suitcase. Not the barking kind of bark. A confused, low, grumbly bark like he was trying to warn me, but wasn't sure how. Our mutt, Brisket, never barked at her before. She was his favorite. It was a Tuesday, same as always. I came home early because the shipment got delayed, and I figured I'd surprise her with dinner from that Thai place she likes, but never admits she likes. I even remembered the sticky rice this time. The house smelled like lavender and vinegar. She must have cleaned. But there was the suitcase. Not hidden, not halfway packed, fully zipped, sitting by the back door like it had been placed there for someone else to notice. Not me. Brisket barked again, this time stepping backward from it. I bent down to calm him and saw something taped to the wall above the shoes. A yellow post-it. In her handwriting. Just be normal tonight. We'll talk after he leaves. I froze. That note wasn't for me. There was nobody else home. The house was silent except for the hum of the fridge and my pulse in my ears. I looked around like I was in someone else's living room. She wasn't in the kitchen. Not in the living room. Not upstairs. Her car was in the driveway. Keys in the bowl by the door. I stood there for maybe 5 full minutes, just staring at that post-it. Like it was going to explain itself. Or disappear. When I finally heard her footsteps upstairs, I didn't move. I didn't call her name. I just waited. She came down dressed differently than she had been this morning. Hair curled, light makeup, wearing that deep red sweater I always said made her look like a bookshop villain. She stopped halfway down the stairs when she saw me. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. You're early. I nodded toward the note. He coming soon? Her mouth opened, then closed. I've never seen anyone look more naked while fully clothed. She sat on the third stair. Not the couch. Not across from me. On the stairs like a kid who just got caught sneaking out. I was going to tell you, she said. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My heart was in my throat. Daryl, it's not what you think. We've been talking. It's not. I held up a hand. Not to stop her. To stop myself. I sat on the floor by the suitcase. I opened it. Inside were 2 dresses, one I hadn't seen before. A charger, travel-size shampoo, and a book. A novel I bought her last Christmas that she never even opened. I lifted it, and something slid out from between the pages. A photo. Of her and a man I didn't recognize. They looked like they were mid-laugh. Her hand was on his chest. I didn't break anything. I didn't yell. I didn't even cry. But something cracked open inside me. Something cold and sharp and irreversible. I stood up, left the Thai food on the counter, walked upstairs, and made a decision I never thought I'd be capable of. She never saw it coming, and I didn't need to say a word. She didn't follow me upstairs right away. I think she expected me to scream, throw something, demand names. But the silence was worse for her. It always was. I sat on the edge of our bed, shoes still on, jacket still zipped, staring at the wall like it held answers. I wasn't even thinking clearly. Not about leaving. Not about staying. I was stuck in this weird in-between state where time didn't move and everything felt heavy. Like the weight of her choices had just dropped onto my chest. Eventually, I heard her footsteps on the stairs. Hesitant, soft, like she didn't want to spook me. She paused outside the door for a long time. Then it opened slowly. You weren't supposed to see that, she said. I looked at her. You left it taped to the wall. She rubbed her eyes. I mean, before the talk. I was going to explain everything. You were supposed to be at work. There was something about her tone that shattered me more than the photo ever could. Like I was inconveniencing her by finding out. Like I had ruined her plans. I asked her who he was. She said his name was Cal. Just Cal. Like that was supposed to mean something to me. I didn't know any calories. I'd never even heard her mention the name before. He's someone I met online, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. It started as nothing. I didn't expect it to become anything real. I felt sick. The kind of sick that makes your hands tremble and your skin feel too tight. I stood up and walked into the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and stared at myself in the mirror. My reflection didn't look angry. It looked emptied. When I came back out, she was sitting on the bed now, legs crossed, hands fidgeting. I didn't sleep with him, she said quickly, like that made it better. But then she looked away. That I know of, I muttered. That's always the phrase, right? Didn't sleep with him. Like that's the finish line. She didn't argue. And that silence told me everything. So what happens now? I asked. He shows up, you talk, and I'm just supposed to what? Go for a drive until it's all over? No, she said too fast. He's not coming here. I waited. She kept talking. We were going to meet in Kansas for the weekend, just to see what it was. A weekend in Kansas. My wife was planning a getaway with a man I didn't know to see what it was. I laughed, not because it was funny, because if I didn't laugh, I was going to lose my mind. All these nights I'd made excuses for her distance, exhaustion, stress, work deadlines. It wasn't life grinding her down. It was him, a ghost I didn't know existed, now stealing the breath out of my marriage. I didn't say much else. I went downstairs. Brisket followed. I sat on the living room floor, hugged that old dog, and stayed there until the sun came up. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just felt erased, like I had become background noise in my own life. By sunrise, I knew what I had to do. Not revenge, not begging, something worse. And she would never see it coming. At 6:12 a.m., I stood in our kitchen, barefoot, drinking cold coffee straight from the pot. She was still upstairs. I don't know if she slept, cried, or messaged him. Maybe all three. Maybe none. I didn't care. Not in the angry way. In the disconnected, numb way. Like my body was there, but I had stepped outside of it and was watching everything from a corner of the ceiling. The night had hollowed me out. I wasn't angry, not the explosive kind, anyway. What I felt was worse. I felt irrelevant. Like a background character in someone else's movie. Like I'd been performing a version of husband for years and didn't realize the director had stopped filming. I didn't go to work. I sent a text to my supervisor, just a one-liner about family emergency and need time. No questions asked. No details offered. He responded with a thumbs-up emoji, like that was the universal cure for emotional implosion. Then I started collecting. Not packing. Not running. Collecting. Quiet things. Personal things. Things I cared about, but she wouldn't even notice missing. My grandfather's watch. The old camping knife she never liked. 2 notebooks with my terrible poetry from college. The backup key to my truck. A folder of photos I kept hidden under the drawer liner in the guest room. Everything fit into a single canvas bag. No ceremony. No drama. Just methodical movement. She came downstairs while I was zipping it shut. Her hair was messy, and she wore the faded blue t-shirt I bought her at a state fair 8 years ago. For a second, she looked like the woman I married. Tired, sweet, familiar. But that illusion broke when she opened her mouth. "Are you leaving?" she asked, her voice tight. I didn't answer right away. I studied her. Not in anger. With curiosity. Like I was trying to figure out how I missed so much for so long. "Not yet," I said. "But I'm going." Her face fell in this strange, subtle way. Like she didn't expect it. Like I was breaking some unwritten script where I was supposed to grovel, beg, demand answers, fall apart in front of her. But I wasn't playing that role anymore. "I thought we'd talk," she said. "We did," I replied. "I mean really talk." I smiled. It was small, tired, maybe a little bitter. "You already did your talking, Lynette." "With him." And that's when she finally broke. Not with sobs. With panic. Real, gasping panic that curled her shoulders and made her take a step toward me like she suddenly remembered I was real. "I didn't plan this, Daryl." "I know," I said. "That's the problem." She sat at the table, the same spot where she used to write grocery lists and scribbled dumb little hearts next to my name when she left sticky notes on the fridge. But now she looked like a stranger trying to solve a puzzle that used to be her life. "Are you going to tell people?" she asked. The question landed like a hammer. Not "I'm sorry." Not "can we fix this?" Just damage control. Optics. Reputation. I leaned against the counter. "No, Lynn. I'm not going to blast you on Facebook or tell your mother. I'm not even going to mention him to anyone." She looked surprised. Relieved, almost. "But," I continued, "I'm going to do something you never expected me to do." She didn't ask what. And I didn't tell her. Because I wasn't even sure what it was yet. But I knew it was coming. And whatever it was, it wouldn't include her. I didn't leave the house that day. Not physically, at least. But something in me stepped out and never came back. It was like I'd been watching my life through a foggy window, and now someone wiped the glass clean. The problem was, the view on the other side wasn't beautiful. It was a mess. A curated illusion that I had kept alive because I was too afraid of the silence that would come after asking the hard questions. The rest of that morning passed in this strange, slow-motion daze. She stayed mostly upstairs, probably talking to him. Or maybe just trying to rewrite the script in her head. Turning herself into the confused wife, the emotionally neglected partner, anything but the architect of her own destruction. I didn't snoop. I didn't scroll through her phone or read old messages. I didn't need to. When trust dies, the details don't matter anymore. The whole framework crumbles. And nothing she could say, no timeline, no, it didn't mean anything, no weepy confession, was going to rebuild what she bulldozed with a text. By noon, I had cooked myself a grilled cheese sandwich and eaten it in total silence. Brisket sat at my feet, eyes flicking toward the stairs every time a floorboard creaked above. He knew. Dogs always do. I think he sensed the fracture, the shift in tone, the loss of something sacred that used to live between us in the quiet moments. Around 2 p.m., I opened the drawer by the fireplace where we kept things like passports, old receipts, insurance junk, basically a junkyard of official life clutter. I wasn't sure what I was looking for until I found it. The spare checkbook. Still crisp. Still full. My name printed alongside hers in black ink, like a promise we both forgot to keep. I sat down and wrote a single check. Not for her. For me. It was the exact amount I had saved for the trip we were supposed to take this fall. Our 10-year anniversary road trip to Colorado. We had planned it down to the restaurants we'd try and the lookout points we'd visit. She even joked about renewing our vows at the top of a mountain. That was 4 months ago. Before Cal. Before lies that were soft sweaters and said, "I'm just tired tonight." I folded the check and placed it in the back pocket of my jeans. By evening, she finally emerged from the bedroom. Her face was blank. Not sad, not angry, not even remorseful. Just empty. "I'm going to stay at Carly's for a few days," she said, gripping her phone like it was the only thing tethering her to this planet. "I think we need space." I nodded. I didn't say okay or I understand. Just nodded, like a waiter pretending to listen to a customer who doesn't know what they want to order. She grabbed her keys. She hesitated at the door, like she expected me to stop her. I didn't. She left without looking back. And I didn't even watch her go. Because by then, I was already gone too. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have guessed, was that I wasn't just letting her leave. I was letting everything go. And what came next wasn't revenge. It was worse. Because it was honest. That night, the house sounded different. It wasn't just quiet. It was hollow, like her absence had peeled the walls back. Every creak of the floorboards under my feet felt like a noise I wasn't supposed to hear, like the house was holding its breath, waiting for me to do something, anything. But I didn't. I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I didn't call anyone. I just sat on the edge of our bed with the dog curled up at my feet, holding that check in one hand and a pen in the other. I flipped it over and started writing, not on the check itself, but on the back. A note. Not to her. To me. Because I needed to hear it. I needed to hear myself say, in my own words, that I had survived the kind of heartbreak that didn't come with slammed doors or screaming matches. The kind that crept in quietly, lived in half smiles and dodged eye contact. The kind that stole you in pieces until you woke up one day and didn't recognize the man shaving in the mirror. I wrote 3 lines. She left months ago. Her body just hadn't caught up yet. I stayed too long, pretending I wasn't bleeding. This is me walking out without taking a single step. When I was done, I folded the check and the note together and placed them in her nightstand drawer, under the box of costume jewelry she never wore. I knew she'd find it eventually. Maybe not for days. Maybe not until she was packing that drawer to move out for real. But when she did, I wanted her to know that I didn't slam the door. I didn't burn the house down. I just disappeared. The next morning, I called in one final favor. My buddy Paul, divorced 3 years, lives in a cabin 2 hours north, had always said I could crash with him if I ever caught a case of cold marriage. That's how he put it. Like it was the flu. I didn't give him details. Just said I needed a place for a bit. He said he'd leave the key under the fake rock by the porch. No questions asked. I packed light. Just the canvas bag I'd filled the day before, a few shirts, the old Polaroid camera she never liked, and a framed photo from our wedding that I removed from the living room wall, not because I wanted to keep it, but because I wanted to decide when I was ready to throw it away. Brisket knew something was happening. He followed me like a shadow. I crouched and scratched behind his ears for a long time before I left. I whispered something into his fur, nothing profound. Just, "You were the best part of all of it." I didn't leave her a goodbye text. I didn't send an email. I didn't even lock the door behind me. Because I wasn't trying to make her chase me. I was letting her have exactly what she asked for. Space. But the thing about space is, sometimes when someone gives it to you, they don't realize how easily you can disappear inside it. And that's exactly what I plan to do. Not to make her suffer, but to finally see what I looked like without her shadow cast over everything I was. The highway was empty for most of the drive north. That early in the morning, the world feels untouched. No traffic, no noise, just the hum of tires on asphalt and a sky too gray to promise anything. I didn't blast music. I didn't scream out the window. I drove like I was sneaking out of my own life, trying not to wake it up. Paul's cabin sat near a frozen lake. One of those places you'd see on a postcard and think, I should go there someday, but never actually do. I'd only been there once, years ago. We'd grilled hot dogs and drank cheap beer while Paul tried to convince me that divorce wasn't the end of the world. Back then, I laughed it off. Said I'd never be in his shoes. That Lynette and I were solid. Funny how fast solid things can rot when you stop checking for cracks. The key was under the fake rock, just like he said. The door creaked open to a room that smelled like cedar and dust and old paperbacks. It was nothing fancy, wood walls, a stone fireplace, a couch that sank too far when you sat on it. But it felt more like home than the house I had just walked away from. I lit a fire, fed brisket, and sat down on the porch with a blanket and a cup of gas station coffee. I watched the lake for a long time. It was still frozen over, but patches of water were starting to show. Winter was ending. You could feel it in the air. That afternoon, I turned off my phone. Not just airplane mode, completely off. No texts, no calls, no social apps. No way for her to reach me, even if she wanted to. Even if she realized something was wrong. Because I wasn't doing this to punish her. I was doing this to figure out if I still existed without her permission. Day one passed like fog. I read a book I found on the shelf, something about climbing mountains alone. I grilled a sandwich. I watched an old movie with terrible dialogue and paused it halfway through, not because I was bored, but because for the first time in months, I had the choice to walk away from something that didn't serve me. Day two, I went hiking. Not far, just enough to feel wind in my lungs and mud on my boots. I thought about our road trip plan, Colorado, 10 days, 10 towns. I wondered if she'd still go. With him. The idea didn't break me like it would have a week ago. It just sat in my chest like a rock, uncomfortable, but manageable. Day three, I found something strange. In the bottom of my bag, tucked between two shirts, was a small envelope. No handwriting, no name, just sealed shut with a sliver of Scotch tape. I didn't put it there. I stared at it for a long time, trying to decide if opening it meant giving her power again. Eventually, curiosity won. Inside was a note. 2 words. I'm sorry. No punctuation. No explanation. No signature. Was it her? It had to be. But when did she slip it in? Before I left? While I was upstairs. Did she know I'd disappear? I almost crumpled it up. Almost let it fall into the fire. But something stopped me. Not hope. Not forgiveness. Just this strange, hollow need to see how far she'd fall when she realized I wasn't coming back. Because here's the thing most people don't tell you about betrayal. It doesn't turn you into a monster. It just removes whatever part of you kept trying to be the better person. And once that piece is gone, you don't get it back. By the 4th day at the cabin, I started remembering who I was before her. Not in some cheesy, movie montage way, where I suddenly felt free and powerful and ready to reinvent my life. It wasn't like that. It was quieter. Like hearing a distant version of yourself calling from another room, slowly realizing you've been ignoring him for years. I remembered I used to write short stories just for fun. I remembered how I loved the smell of hardware stores, the mix of sawdust and engine oil, like a promise of something you could fix with your own 2 hands. I remembered that I liked my eggs over medium, not scrambled like she always made them because it's faster. I remembered I didn't actually like red wine. I remembered the way I used to laugh without checking someone else's reaction first. And that's when I realized she hadn't just cheated on me with Cal. She had quietly erased me, piece by piece, until all that was left was a man who said okay too often, swallowed his instincts, and slept beside a stranger who wore his wife's face. I went another 2 days without turning on my phone. And then, on the 7th morning, I broke the silence, not because I missed her, but because I was curious how long it would take before she noticed I was really gone. I turned it on in the dark, sitting near the fire with brisket sleeping against my leg. 37 unread messages. 4 missed calls. 1 voicemail. The first dozen texts were emotionless. We need to talk. Call me when you calm down. You can't just disappear like this. Then came the guilt-laced ones. This isn't fair. You're scaring me now. Brisket needs you. Please come home. I read them all with a strange detachment. Like I was reading about someone else's life. Some other fool who got left behind. And then I opened the voicemail. Her voice was shaky, but not crying. Not yet. Daryl, I didn't expect it to feel like this. The house is dead. I keep walking past your boots like you're going to come in any minute and mumble something about how they're still good, even with the hole in the sole. I made dinner last night and threw it all out. Couldn't eat. I don't know where you are. I guess that's the point. But please just tell me if you're safe. She paused. I could hear dishes clinking faintly in the background. I told Cal I couldn't do it. I told him it was a mistake. He didn't even argue. He just said, I figured, and left. That's what I gave you up for. A man who already knew I'd regret it. There it was. The confession I never asked for. She had burned everything down for someone who didn't even try to save the ashes. That should have made me feel triumphant. It didn't. It made me realize just how much of myself I had lost trying to hold together something she was already halfway out of. And for what? A woman who left me with a post-it and a half-packed suitcase. She didn't know it yet, but her story with me had already ended. The last few pages? They belonged to me, and I was about to write the ending she never expected. I didn't reply to her voicemail. Not because I wanted to punish her, or because I didn't believe she regretted it, but because I had already made peace with the fact that regret wasn't enough. Regret didn't stitch back the pieces she let unravel. It didn't unkiss the man she met in secret, and it definitely didn't put the version of me she'd worn down back together. But I wasn't angry anymore. That was the strange part. By the 8th day, something in me had shifted completely. I woke up, made breakfast, took Brisket down to the edge of the lake where the ice was finally breaking apart, and I sat on a cold rock and felt sunlight hit my face like it meant something. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a supporting character in someone else's story. I didn't feel small. I didn't feel forgettable. I felt like me again. I pulled out my phone and wrote one final text, not to her, but to Paul. Thanks for the cabin. I think I know where I'm going next. Then I booked a place 2 states away. Not forever, but for a while. A quiet rental near a little mountain town where no one knew my name and no one had heard of Lynette. I packed my bag, grabbed the note she had slipped into my clothes, and folded it one last time before tucking it into the pages of a fresh notebook. Not to remember her, but to remember the moment I realized I deserved more. Before I left, I wrote her a letter. No yelling, no accusations, no anger. Just this. Lynette, I heard your message. I believe you're sorry, but I'm done being the man you turn into a mirror for your guilt. You're free to figure yourself out. I'm free too. Brisket's with me. He deserves peace, same as I do. Don't look for us. D. I left it on the kitchen counter, right next to her favorite mug. The one that said, let's just be honest, in fading letters. I figured that was fitting. As I drove away for the last time, I didn't feel the weight of loss. I felt clean. I felt light. I felt like the kind of man who could start again. Not because someone else asked him to change, but because he finally saw the value in his own damn reflection. And you know what? Starting over at 44 isn't the tragedy I once thought it would be. It's the best plot twist I've ever written.